I'm back for a little while, for like a month, I think, before we do the ninja thing in the UK. Oh, it was nonstop. I was everywhere. And then to make it all, really crazy, I come back on a Friday. Sunday, it's Mother's Day. So what do? We go to a tea service. You can't just drink tea, you have to have an entire tea service. I don't know if you've been to this. It's very fancy thing. You sit down with the table and all the expensive cups and pots. It's very it's great for kids. You're constantly worried if they're going to shatter the glass tea set stuff. But let me tell you something. It was like $300 for four people, and they didn't even know what they were doing. They're bringing over, they're asking us what kind of tea. They were asking when to bring out the pastries, the cookies. Do we want tea? They took the sugar off the table, and they didn't even bring out the sandwiches. There's supposed to be little sandwiches. They bring them for us. There's no kids sandwiches. They said, "Is this for?" Well, this is a reservation for Olivia. I said, "No, Steve." Whatever. Finally, my wife got involved. She said, "Look, this is terrible. It's disappointing. We're having a terrible time and we're leaving." Luckily, I got the money back, but I don't know if I could recommend these. Steve Weiner here from GetRubix.com, and today we're going to look at the all-new and updated Autopilot Branding package from Michael Niehaus. We're going to download it, take a look at what's different, and watch it in action on a device. See, I think instead of a tea service, someone should do a burger service. Like you come in, it's a burger joint. They give you maybe the fries first, and they come over with different burgers, something different. I don't know. It's tea service wasn't it.
GetRubix, solving for the modern workplace.
Okay, so I have a virtual machine that I am prepping for us to go through Autopilot with. I guess I could have done that before, but I'm very busy. So I want to take a look at this. So if we head over to Michael's blog, we could see just last week before MMS, he put out a new Autopilot branding package. So let's look at everything that's changed in it. It looks like there was logic added to skip the first sign-in animation. That's good. That's what we want. We could turn off the widgets on the taskbar. That's really nice. Right, we can completely remove the widgets feature if you really don't like it. There was some logic added to update NuGet and WinGet, which I'm really happy about. We fixed it looks like the OneDrive machine-wide installer was fixed to avoid having two copies running. That was something we've run into. There's also support for, I believe he means ARM64 OneDrive installer. Unless there's an ARM65 that we don't know about yet. This has always been a big one, and I'm curious what the fix was here, because I've had issues with this where we're setting wallpaper with Autopilot branding, but there's a pre-configured theme from like Lenovo or Dell, and that was kind of messing things up, and it wouldn't work. So now it looks like that's disabled. I'm curious what the fix was. I've had my own fix for that, but this will be interesting. Additional apps can be removed, right? There's a list of bloatware with this package that's very popular, and you can either tweak the list, but it looks like there were some defaults added. It also looks like basically the logic was shifted around, so a lot of the tweaks can just be changed to the config file versus editing the script logic. This is cool. So this is something we looked at. This is something we looked at on Rudy's blog, and it looks like Michael added it in. Logic to skip the security and privacy pages in OOBE for Autopilot V2. So that'll be interesting. We'll have to take a look at that separately. Now, there was some other cool things here. There was some pieces added to install apps from WinGet, which is cool. We can update some inbox apps, right? And kick off a Windows Update scan. That'll kind of take care of that delay before Windows would do it after provisioning. We can also, just like before, remove Windows features and add a lock screen image, which wasn't there before. We were able to add the desktop background for, once the user's in, but now we can configure a lock screen image. So very cool. Let's take a look at this. So it's on GitHub. We're going to go grab the latest release, which is here. I'm going to go ahead and extract it. All right, and we're going to open this up actually. Let's open this up in code. So I think it's important to mention, because I've had this conversation a lot, especially last week at MMS, right? I even talked about it in one of my, I forget which session, but here's the thing. The Autopilot branding solution or other bloatware, debloating scripts and customizations for Autopilot, right? These were extremely critical in the early days when we were shifting from imaging to provisioning and folks had trouble kind of letting go of their old means. I'm a firm believer in pushing towards less customization for the end user, right? Letting them do more themselves, right? We don't want to be so worried about what's pinned to the taskbar and start menu. They can set their own desktop background. So little things like that, firm believer in moving away from. But I know it's not an option for everyone, right? Your your organization culture might be different than others, and this just might be a showstopper where if you move to Autopilot, someone is still making you set these things, right? So, as long as that's going to be something we have to deal with, we're going to keep covering ways to make our lives easier with it, because why not? And for me, Autopilot branding has always been a staple in the provisioning tool set. All right, so let's go through this and start modifying it for ourselves and decide what we want to do. All right, so checking NuGet provider, that's cool. Where do we start making decisions? So here we go. Okay, the custom start layout. So I'm going to leave these alone. So this is looking for Windows 10. It's going to use the layout XML, but we're not using that. We're using Windows 11. So it's going to use the bin that we can't read. But again, I'm just going to leave that for now. Taskbar layout modification. It looks like we're doing kind of a fake program here. Windows calculator terminal. I'll get rid of the fake program. We don't need that. We'll just use these two apps. We go down to configuring the background, and it looks like we're looking for this Autopilot JPEG. I'm going to use I'm going to use my Rubik's picture called Autopilot JPEG, and that's going to replace it. So there we go. That should set that for me. Let's go Autopilot branding. So the lock screen, Autopilot lock.jpg. So we don't have, what do we got here for that? I'm going to actually use the same picture for the lock screen. Okay, for the lock screen, I'm just going to use the same picture. So I'm going to call that Autopilot lock.jpg. That should replace that. Okay, so I have the same picture for the lock and the desktop. We're going to leave that alone. Temp user stuff, that's good. Start to the left. So I do want to skip the align to the left, and it looks like I am skipping it, so that's good. So that shouldn't align my taskbar to the left. If for some reason you want to, we'll just turn this to false so we can take a look at it, and then that should go ahead and that'll shift it over to the left. Hiding the widgets, I want to do that, so let's see. No, we're not going to skip that. Okay, we're going to leave the rest on the default. Disable widgets, configure the time zone. I do want to configure the time zone, so we'll go to config, we'll go to time zone, and I'm going to say Eastern Standard Time. And you can obviously put in whatever you want. Now, as far as, I want to see some of these. Remove specified provision apps. Okay, let's go ahead to config. I'm good with removing all that. I'm good with removing the consumer teams, the widgets, Copilot, good. Now, WinGet install, this is interesting. So you can apparently modify apps to get installed. WinGet installed. So down here we have basically a function that's going to look through our list, and it'll use WinGet to install some apps for us. We can disable features if we want. Remove capabilities. I think everything else I'm going to leave the same. All right, so let's go through. We have this. Let's make sure we've saved it all. Save all. All right, so back here we go up one level in the package, and we're going to run the make app command. Now we have the Intune win, and we can just throw that up in Intune for us. So I got rid of my old one because I knew we'd be doing this. So I'm going to go to Windows, Create. We're going to make a Win32 app. Select the package file. This might all be sitting in downloads. It is. So there's my Intune win that I just made. All right, so I'm going to call this Autopilot Branding. Right, you can modify the pieces as you want. That's the blog. Next. Okay, so install command is going to be PowerShell.exe execution policy bypass. And we're just going to call Autopilot Branding.ps1. Now, you don't need an uninstall with this because there's really nothing to uninstall. I'm just going to leave it on, so I'm just going to put an asterisk there. We're going to leave it as system and next. Check operating system architecture. No, this can be installed on all systems. I don't really have a difference here, and that's already built into the script. It's also a newer Intune feature, by the way. Now, our detection rule is going to be a file path. So we're going to go to File, and if we head back to the code, we're going to see we should be looking at, where is it here? Yes, so it's Program Data, Microsoft Autopilot Branding, right? That's the folder. And then inside is Autopilot Branding.ps1.tag. So we're going to do C, Program Data, Microsoft Autopilot Branding. Was that one or two words? It was one word, Autopilot Branding. And then the file is this one, Autopilot Branding.ps1.tag. Does it exist? Okay, so we got that. We're going to assign this to our group of WinCorp devices. That's our default Autopilot group. All right, so let's go back to devices enrollment and our enrollment status page, because this is pretty key for Autopilot Branding. This is my primary ESP for my WinCorp devices. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the settings, and I'm going to add my new Autopilot Branding package here. Autopilot Branding. All right, there we go. All right, so we have our VM. We just fire it up. It's registered in Autopilot. All right, and let's sign in. Let's sign in as ourselves. GetRubixDev.com. All right, so this is going to be the normal Autopilot process. Once we hit the ESP, it should tell us we're waiting for two apps. One's Company Portal. That's how I have it set up. And the other, of course, is the newer Autopilot Branding. Okay, so we're already at 1 out of 2 apps installed. Okay, so we got to the desktop. And let's take a look around. So we got our Windows, so we got the taskbar over to the left. Let's take a look at some other stuff. So the widgets are off. I don't see Copilot. There's Company Portal, which I have set to auto launch based on the script. We'll close that for now. I had opened the start menu. It didn't auto open. That's my start layout, which is good. What happens if I lock the machine? Let me see if the lock wallpaper took place. It did. Okay. So I have both the lock wallpaper and the desktop wallpaper. All right. So the bloatware I set to strip out is gone. Very cool. Okay. My time zone is correct. Also a good thing. All right. And let's go looking for the log file if we wanted to check that. So you would just go to Program Data in the Explorer, Microsoft. There's Autopilot Branding. You have 2 files. That's your install tag for Intune, and the Autopilot Branding. This is your logging for everything that we ran here. So I hit a few errors, but we'll take a look at that probably later. Nothing I can't, just some things I have to adjust. But overall, yeah, really solid. I like having the widgets go away. I like having the lock screen applied. We don't have the Edge desktop shortcut. The start menu didn't pop open. So yeah, really smooth. So that was interesting. Things got a little swirly in that. I had some problems with my ESP during that, which I usually never have problems with the enrollment status page. That's something I need to look into because it did take a while. Overall, a very nice upgrade. I think this leaves a lot of questions, though, about the enrollment status page in general and digging into it, because a lot of folks have been reaching out to me about that, and I just had some problems myself. So we're going to address that in an upcoming video. In the meantime, if you have to make customizations to your Windows device during Autopilot, right, if that's what your organization requires, this is still the best way to do it, and it has a lot of nice updates in the package. So, let me know your thoughts if you're using it, if you tried the new version yet, and we'll be seeing you.